And I think that the purity test is wrong. I think that going down this road I think going down the road of liberty is a path. And I would say, and Brandon, I think you'd be a good example of this. Where you were at in 2010 and where you're at now is not nearly the same space. And the reason it's not is because you needed that experience and those examples, and you needed to be able to work through it on your own with someone offering either things of encouragement or at least answering questions or something like that.
Right. If you support massive spending and debt and military intervention, you should stop calling yourself a conservative, right? If you support abortion, if you support taxpayers' money for abortion, if you are okay with suing a bunch of nuns for birth control or whatever, maybe you should be canceled for being a Catholic. That's his general thought. Cancel them from groups because they're not following the tenets. As a small L libertarian, I should be canceled as one if I'm all rah for, yes, let's continue funneling money to Saudi Arabia to bomb Yemen. Right? You know what I'm saying? That's the theory. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, on that? And I think there's. I don't know, the purist stuff is very difficult for me.
It should never go to your livelihood, and
that's correct.
You as a person,
unperson somebody. Yeah. I understand that. Yeah, but I don't want people like this was one of the things like when you guys and like when Alex and you were running for office, one of the things for me with the libertarian thing and it wasn't you, it wasn't even it's not Adrian, but there were other people, and I wasn't libertarian enough for them. I would never have been able to have run for office. I never would have been able to be part of it all because I was never going to be libertarian enough because I was still mentally working out different issues for myself. I was still going through my own faith walk. I was still going through, how to even craft real world application of certain things. I'm on board with 70, 80, 90% of it, but there's these little pieces. And sometimes it would just be a piece that would pop up for a while and be like, well, I'm not quite sure how to digest that one or whatever. It is hard to have the purity test. But I will say, the thing is I don't think people on the right, libertarians, conservatives, are unpersoning people. That's a leftist thing by today's current climate. Now, I'm not saying that's always been the case. Obviously, went through the religious right phase where people, the Jerry Falwells and stuff, you're not Christian enough, and you're not this, and you're not this. So there is still pieces of things that don't fit that narrative. But I do think that for the most part, that's a pretty fair way of talking about it.
Well, I think that the Big L Libertarian Party in and of itself, one of the biggest tragedies that you have is they probably do more to repel people to the message than they ever do to bring them in. It's almost like you have to go there and stay there in spite of those people, not because of those people. And and most of the people that are really good purveyors of the message, with the exception of Spike Cohen, the last VP candidate from the LP, even though he was young, I think Spike does a great job. I think he does a phenomenal job. And I do think you're getting more people into the party that aren't like this. So I don't want to indict the current leadership of the LP in this category. But I definitely know from 2010 to 2018 or 2010 to 2016 is that they did more to repel people out of the party because of that purity test. And I think that the purity test is wrong. I think that going down this road I think going down the road of liberty is a path. And I would say, and Brandon, I think you'd be a good example of this. Where you were at in 2010 and where you're at now is not nearly the same space. And the reason it's not is because you needed that experience and those examples, and you needed to be able to work through it on your own with someone offering either things of encouragement or at least answering questions or something like that. If they spent more time just allowing people to get there, I think that they would do a lot better. I hope that's going to be the case moving forward, because I am a big L libertarian again. So I'm back in the party itself, and I'm not really playing any kind of an active role or anything like that.
Well, Alex, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Let me ask you a question. Do you feel the same about Glenn Beck?
What do you mean? Like
Well,
he's gotten further left?
He's kind of
I
in
mean,
the
further
Brandon mode.
libertarian?
He's kind of in the Brandon mode, yeah.
Now, okay, in all fairness, I ain't heard Beck in a while, so I haven't heard Beck in a long time. But I will say, I did notice a movement towards, towards liberty or towards the government's the problem. Mm-hmm. I did notice that much more and more. Any issue I have with Glenn Beck really is personal. He's one of those people that, like, we were calling and reaching out and doing all this stuff when I was running for office, and me and Adrian were, and they blocked Adrian. They wouldn't take the email. Like, it was like when you listen to what he was saying in 2010, and then we were responding to him and be like, hey, this is what we got going on, and this and this and this. And for him to really just ignore it was almost one of those things where, like, I don't believe anything that you say now. And it took me a long time of my own personal, like, jadedness on that one to kind of get past it a little bit. I mean, I still don't like the other guy, the Stu guy that's with him. I still hate that guy's guts. No getting around that. But there are some things that he's done that I tend to like. And it always seems to me like now he really does look for a non-governmental solution to these problems, especially with, like, getting the people out of places or going after, like, child traffickers. Like, I think he realizes that government's just going to cause a problem. You better find another way to do it.
He just invested his own money to do some of that stuff, though. I mean, that's just the power of the private. It's like people always say, well, the poor won't be taken care of, whatever. Well, Beck just went and got planes. Beck just figured it out. Millions and millions of dollars. Let me ask you about Dave Smith. What do you guys think about Dave Smith?
I like him.
Alex, you know much about Dave Smith?
I
think there's a dog and pony show element there, but I do think there's a way that because his comedy is so good and he thinks on his feet so well, it's a way of broadening your tent. To be honest, I'm not sure it's about a policy thing, but I think it is a well-drawn pen.
I don't want to go after him too much, though. And I like the Mises Caucus guys, and I actually, I do have a good relationship with the Mises Caucus people, at least in Florida. So sometimes it seems like they almost piss people off for the sake of pissing people off. And I think that's their strategy. I just don't agree with it, I guess, as much anymore. If you're going to have that, and I think that if you're going to say to libertarians that we're going to take over your party and stuff like that, like, if you're looking for division, that's kind of like 101 how you do it.
But Alex, but would you say that the other libertarians drew first blood on that? Going after the Mises Caucus? Trying to keep them out?
Oh, I think so. With the Joe Jorgensen thing, with how some of that stuff just went down, I thought kind of did. I mean, at least maybe not the Mises 100%, but just there's whole factions of libertarians, and it was like, I don't know. For me, I don't know. We went from Gary Johnson to that, and it was a massive step back for me. Like, I can't even take you people seriously.
And you got people in the party that are like slamming Tom Woods for everything he says.
Yeah, I have no idea what these people were thinking.
Now, hold on, Brandon. Just so you know, I actually did make an endorsement in the 2020 primary. Or was it 2016? No, the 2016 primary. I actually endorsed Vermin Supreme.
You gotta be honest, man. My daughter asked me about Vermin Supreme once. I said, listen, it's better than voting for some of these other knuckleheads. Go ahead. You know my support.
Well,
I mean, they're not going to win, but it's a better. Yeah.
I think you should embrace the joke that the federal offices are now. I really like, and I never thought in a million years I'd ever done that, but it was him and Spike that were running that election cycle. No. It was the 2021 that I endorsed them. Never mind. I endorsed them in the 2021. Yeah. And I thought it would have been a great idea for the LP to do it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you would have given the LP a lot of crap for it, but I really was thinking they should just say, screw it. Don't even try to remotely be serious. Put up Vermin. More people will hear about it than anybody else. And Vermin is quick on his feet.
I have to be honest, in 2020, you would have got a pretty deaf ear from me, because I was all about Trump just because he was breaking the media apparatus. And I was like, I see so few wins right now that was one I thought if he stayed in office, yes, there's going to be so much more division and more hearings or whatever, but he will continue to break the media apparatus. What I didn't realize was it's broken anyway, and it continues to stay broken because they can't not talk about Trump. So it was a win-win for me anyway, because now I don't know anyone who considers CNN a viable place. I don't even know how they exist in the numbers that they have, because everyone knows it's just a joke and a fallacy. Like, it's just so over the top. Anyway, we're way.
Hey,
way
we're
all
News
over the
Talk
map.
with Brandon and Bob. We're here to tell you about some of the facts so you don't have to waste your time watching CNN.
We don't want you wasting any time with CNN.
Or Fox or MSNBC or some of these other guys that are making a whole lot of money.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Not paying.